We are Growing Up New Mexico, the Early Childhood Partnership.
Good evening and welcome to the Center of the Circle's Summer Gala. We welcome you, our donors, here tonight with great appreciation for your support and for the work that you do to help us be successful. The campaign this year, I need to say, because of you and the great leadership of Abby Bordner and our board chair, Barb Rand, exceeded our goal of $1.2 million. We raised $1.25 million. This is the largest campaign we've had in many, many, many years. With COVID, with all of the challenges, there have been many silver linings, and we thank you, our donors, for participating in that and allowing this to happen. You know, the private dollars that we're able to raise because of you and many others like you is the lifeblood of our organization. Our grants are wonderful, and we have millions of dollars in grants. But it's the individual and corporate donations that allow us to be as flexible and as nimble as we are. Those are undesignated dollars to let us do things that many organizations are unable to do. So thank you so very much to each and every one of you for your participation in that. We're here tonight to celebrate a couple of things. One is our name change. As you know, we are now Growing Up New Mexico. That's gone really well, and most people can say the whole thing at this point. We're very happy about that. We're almost at our 6-month anniversary of that name change, and smoking along. We really love it. The second thing that we're celebrating tonight is the first formal anniversary of our brand new Early Childhood Education and Care Department. I think as many of you know, and as many of you participated in, a couple of years ago, Growing Up New Mexico, then United Way of Santa Fe County, kind of led the advocacy effort to create Senate Bill 22 that created this new department. And again, many of you participated in that advocacy and legislative work. Our goals and our hopes for that department, and thank you to Senator Padilla, Lieutenant Governor Diane Dennis, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales, and all of the people who were involved in this. Our goals, our hopes for this department were that we would have an aligned early childhood system that would meet the needs of our families in compassionate and robust ways. We were really fortunate. We knew that we needed a leader. It always is about the leadership. We needed a leader who understood system building, who had the courage to go deep, deep, deep in this department and figure out what was working and what was not working. We also had to have somebody who could lead with compassion and who kept families first and foremost. And we were very fortunate to be able to attract Governor Lujan Grisham, thank you for the appointment, was able to attract Elizabeth Groginsky to New Mexico. One of the best things about Elizabeth and Secretary Groginsky, and you'll see that as she speaks, is that she is passionate about this work. She's able to tap into her own inner child and really understand what we need to do to keep children, all children, first and foremost in our state, using a lens of equity and involvement of public-private partners like Growing Up New Mexico. We were very fortunate to be the organization that was selected to work with Secretary Groginsky and her team to do the needs assessment for the new department and create the strategic plan. So we could not have done better. We could not have done better in New Mexico than this selection of Elizabeth Groginsky. So it's with great pleasure that I introduce you tonight to Secretary Elizabeth Groginsky.
Good evening, and thank you, Katherine, so much for inviting me to be part of this incredible celebration. Really look forward to when I can meet all of the amazing guests that are with us tonight. I know that during this past 14 months, we have all been through a lot, and particularly the early childhood community, and it's great to be able to recognize the progress that we've made and look forward to the day when we can all be together in a room celebrating families and young children and the great work of Growing Up New Mexico. So when I arrived here in New Mexico in December of 2019, it was amidst a very exciting moment where Governor Lujan Grisham and the New Mexico legislature had just created the Early Childhood Education and Care Department. There was so much excitement and so much enthusiasm for the work that was to come and for the commitment of this new department to create a cohesive, equitable, and effective early childhood system prenatal to age 5. Right on the heels of this exciting news, I was enthralled and enmeshed into the work of creating the Early Childhood Trust Fund under, again, the innovative leadership of former Secretary Olivia Padilla-Jackson, the Children's Cabinet Director Mariana Padilla, and Governor Lujan Grisham. We said, this is something we can do, and thank goodness we had the support of our former Senate Finance Chair, John Arthur Smith, and the good work of Doreen Gallegos, Representative Doreen Gallegos, who said, we can create an early childhood trust fund. We have created a department, but without additional resources and support, we won't be able to achieve the objectives that we want as a state for our families and young children. So it was a lot of excitement. We were very successful, and we had unanimous bipartisan support for the Early Childhood Trust Fund. As you all know, we were quickly on the heels of this excitement and the governor signing the budget and all of us ready to cheer and go forward. We were met with, of course, the COVID global pandemic. But what I want to say is just reflecting even on those early times is just the enthusiasm and the passion and the investment of this state and its leaders, whether it's in the legislature or with our private sector partners like Growing Up New Mexico and others. We have been able to achieve so much for young children. We knew that we had to do more, that this new department had to really come together in a way that was different than other departments. That was outlined in the legislation by the establishment of an Assistant Secretary for Native American Early Education and Care, who I'm so pleased that Assistant Secretary Giovanna Archuleta from the Pueblo of Nambe is part of our leadership. We knew that we had to do more in terms of engaging both, again, public and private partners and all the stakeholders, families, providers, along this journey to create a department that was going to create a world-class prenatal to 5 early childhood system. So we knew that I couldn't do it alone. I was new to New Mexico, and so I enlisted the support of the Hunt Institute. They're out of North Carolina, and I established a transition committee that was led by Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales and Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver. We brought together legislators from both the Senate and the House, Republicans and Democrats, cabinet secretaries, the governor's office, and national and statewide education and business experts. And we met virtually because, again, we were now in the midst of the global pandemic, but we knew the work had to go on. The families and the children couldn't wait. The early childhood professionals could not wait. We knew that their Their livelihood, their compensation was not where we wanted it to be. And so we set about having these virtual 3 to 4 hour sessions. Katherine Freeman from Growing Up New Mexico joined us for one of them to talk about how we were going to build and finance an early childhood system. I'm so pleased to share that we were able to release a 18-month action plan and report. And out of that report, we kind of codified around 5 strategic priorities for the department. The first, we knew we needed to grow investments. Even though we had the Early Childhood Trust Fund and we had a very healthy budget coming into FY20, we knew that we needed more. And so we said that has got to be a top priority. The second top priority is advancing a diverse, well-compensated, and credentialed workforce. The reason that we have to do that second, after getting the investments, is because we want to increase access and quality. The key to quality in early childhood is the early childhood professional. If they're coming to work, they feel well supported, they can take care of their own families, they're going to be able to do the good work for other children every day, whether it's home visiting or childcare. Then we said we need to, after increasing access and quality as our third priority, we must achieve equity. And this achieving equity is looking again at programs and services, but it's about who's making the decisions. We know that in our state, too many communities, Native American communities, Latino, Hispanic communities, have not been part of the shared decision making. Our relationships with our tribes, pueblos, and nations has to be first and foremost. So we knew that in addition to making sure investments were there, we need people at the table making decisions with us as key decision makers and leaders in their own communities. And finally, we want to enhance authentic collaboration. That was our 5th strategic priority. And that means that we know the people sitting in this room tonight and all over whoever are part of this event and in Growing Up New Mexico, we know the importance of those first 5 years, the critical development that happens in the brain, the role of the family and the parent and the community. But for many people, that is not common knowledge. That's knowledge that we want to unleash. We want to make sure that everybody in New Mexico knows about the importance of this period of development and the critical role that they can play in that development, whether it's the family, whether it's the pediatrician, the OBGYN, the home visitor, the early childhood professional. So those are our 5 strategic priorities that will really guide our department over the next 3 to 5 years. Our goals will change, our objectives will change, but those will be our priorities moving forward. So the new department is so fantastic. We have an amazing leadership team. We have a great charge. Our vision is that all New Mexico families and children are thriving. So that gives us a wonderful place to start. And we have everything from our child care assistance, our child care licensing, home visiting, family nutrition, Families First, a perinatal case management program, and we have pre-K, New Mexico pre-K. And the exciting thing I think about this opportunity for our department is these programs and services are not new to New Mexicans. It's just new that they're under one roof, that we're sitting there and have a seat at the cabinet table and are thinking about, with our colleagues across the Children's Cabinet, what more is needed and what is needed in particular at this period of life. So we brought the programs from Children, Youth, and Families Department, we brought programs from the Department of Health, and we brought the pre-K program from the Public Education Department. And now we're able to sit and think across our department about how do we align our efforts? How do we know what's working and how are we measuring that progress day to day and year over year? Another exciting thing that happened is the pandemic was about to break was that the Pritzker Children's Initiative picked New Mexico as one of just a few states that would receive an implementation grant. And the Pritzker Children's Initiative is focused on prenatal to 3 in particular. Thank goodness we had Growing Up New Mexico, who had been working with over 80 partners to put together a planning document, and now we had the resources over the next 3 years to really implement this. And these partners are from all over the state. Families, providers, home visitors, childcare, mental health, behavioral health, all the partners that we know we need to build strong communities that support families. So that was a very exciting endeavor, and it was just one success was begetting another success, kind of like the early years when we give children what they need. Those skills beget skills, and we were seeing this with the setup of the new department. It was truly phenomenal. Again, through the pandemic, we were able to communicate with our audiences virtually. We set up daily calls, then we set up weekly calls, then we tried to go to every other week calls, and that didn't work. We needed to get back and get connected. But now we're really excited that the department is fully formed. We are 1 year old now as you're here tonight with us, celebrating an incredible birthday of a job well done, and one that took over a decade to achieve. So we take our role and our responsibilities very seriously. We know that the work has really just begun in some ways to set a new trajectory for families and children across New Mexico. I want to speak specifically and thank Growing Up New Mexico for, as I am a strong believer and have been over my 20 plus years working in early childhood, of public-private partnerships. We can't do this alone. It is really all of us working together, both across sectors, but also in the private and the public sector working. And that's where I think Growing Up New Mexico has been able to add so much value to the work that the new department has set up. From being there as one of many partners, getting it across the finish line, I've heard some of the stories, and I know that so many people were there at the crucial moment to make the case that they needed to make of why creating an early childhood education and care department was not a nice to have, but a must have for New Mexico. They were there again with the Early Childhood Trust Fund, along with all the other advocates that they pull together and bring together with all their provider partners. But in addition to that, really understanding the advocacy and the policy landscape and the importance of aligning our systems of support, they are a demonstration. They're innovative partners themselves. I visited the Connie Center, but again, it was during the pandemic, so I'm looking forward to getting back there, seeing where they're offering high quality 5-star pre-K programming. They've been on the road with home visiting, Firstborn, and a very important home visiting program for New Mexico. They are leading that, working in the neonatal unit here in Santa Fe, making sure we're reaching families very early on, giving them the supports that they need, and really building a system of supports for families and young children here in the Santa Fe County area and across the state. They're working with registered home providers or other family, friend, and neighbor providers, helping them build their businesses, but also helping them meet a critical need in the community. Quality infant toddler care, building the profession, and we're excited to see the progress that we are all going to make together over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. Something that Katherine talked about is this statewide strategic plan. This is essential. I mean, for us to have 6 key goals with many objectives, 3 each, I believe, but we really set that intention, and we worked, and really Growing Up New Mexico, through their partnership with the state, did the interviews, helped create the focus groups, worked with the Native American Budget and Policy Institute to reach our Native American communities in a very intentional and thoughtful way. So this document, it's a living document, and we know that it is a huge part of our path forward, along with our 18-month action plan and our own agency's statewide strategic plan. So we look forward to the continued innovation and partnership and leadership of Katherine Freeman, Kate Noble, and all the people at Growing Up New Mexico, the staff, the board, all of you who have been here for them, with them, from day one, making sure that New Mexico is the best place to raise a family and have your children.
Hello, my name's Kate Noble. I am the Vice President for Policy and Stakeholder Engagement with Growing Up New Mexico, and someone who has the great honor of often working with Secretary Groginsky and her team and moving the public-private partnership that she spoke about forward. And I'm very pleased to be able to ask her a couple questions now. So thanks for staying on and doing this. We have this opportunity that you spoke about. You've had a year to build a department. It's been a unique one in bringing a lot of folks together from different departments under the Early Childhood Education and Care Department. And I'd imagine there have been a lot of challenges, but really I want to ask about the opportunity that you see in this blank slate that you've had to create a new department and go forward into the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kate. It's great to be able to talk with you more about the establishment of the new department. And truly, as you said, there have been more opportunities than challenges. A couple things. We sat down right away, the Assistant Secretary Archuleta, Deputy Secretary Jennifer Duran-Salih, and we said, we want to be intentional about what we're doing. How do we look at the departments, but also when we think about the role of the Native American Early Childhood Education and Care Secretary, how do we make sure that she has the support she needs? So the first thing we said is we need tribal liaisons representing in every program. They need to meet with the secretary, and she'll help support them, and then they'll help support her as we work to strengthen our government-to-government relationships. We also knew the role of Head Start had to be elevated. Head Start is a critical partner in our work to enhance and expand early childhood education opportunities in New Mexico. So we elevated the Head Start State Collaboration Director under the Assistant Secretary for Native American Early Education and Care in the Office of the Secretary. We want to know how we can support this person's role and how we can support the New Mexico Head Start Association. We also looked at how were the divisions within the department going to be organized. And so especially now that we have the Family Infant Toddler Program, our early intervention, home visiting, and Families First, this perinatal case management, we said let's put them together in the Family Support Early Intervention Division. They work almost exclusively in the prenatal to 3 period of life, and so they can now work across their bureaus, thinking about professional development, thinking about technical assistance, and how they can build stronger systems for families and young children. And then we have the Early Care Education and Nutrition Division. So we have childcare, pre-K, and our Family Nutrition Program, which is supporting so many of our Head Start and childcare and pre-K programs with the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So those are our 2 main facing divisions that do programmatic support. And we undergird that with a very strong administrative services department with a CIO, a human resource department, an incredible team of leaders in the finance side. And then we complement that with our policy, research, and quality initiatives division, which is in service of both of those divisions. Professional development, wage supplement programs, scholarship programs, all the contracts that provide the technical assistance and support to the entire prenatal to 5 system. So it was a great opportunity to think about the strengths of each of these programs and how by positioning them together in this formation that we could really maximize and leverage their assets and again work towards that cohesive, equitable, and effective prenatal to 5 system.
So you've got the system, you've got an incredible team.
Yeah.
How do you see your role in knitting it all together and leading this? And what are, if any, sort of guiding principles that keep you on track when all of these things that are coming at you on a daily basis could be so distracting?
Yes, that is such a great question. And the thing that I think that we have in our statewide strategic plan that we worked on together as partners, as well as with all the other state partners, was that focus on equity, focus on quality, and a focus on collaboration. We know that without these 3 principles, we won't be able to achieve what we want for families and young children. And I would say there's a couple other pieces that the partnership that we've had with Pritzker Children's Initiative through Growing Up New Mexico around understanding the costs of all of these programs, doing the cost study for home visiting and the soon to be released cost estimation model on childcare. This is exciting work. This helps us really understand what it'll take to meet the needs of all families and young children with quality services. So those are things that I would point to as we're very system focused, again with equity, quality, and collaboration, and really understanding what it will take both programmatically, fiscally, and something else. Okay, we'll cut that part.
Well, you chose to come and work in New Mexico, and we're very fortunate and pleased to have you. Where do you see New Mexico on the national stage, and why did you choose to come here?
That is very easy, and I was asked this by Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham when she called to talk to me about who I was and what I was doing. And really the first was to work for a visionary leader like Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. She has a vision for cradle to career that is phenomenal. She demands collaboration. She established a children's cabinet, so the conditions were perfect. I'm passionate about building systems. It's what my life's work has been in terms of early childhood. And the opportunity to build a system, like you said, from the ground up in a state with the conditions that we have here, strong legislative, strong executive, strong private sector partners, was something that I couldn't pass up. And of course, it's one of the most beautiful states that you could ever live in. So it all situated well. And I would say that it amazes me every day. I tell colleagues all across the country, the collaboration we have here is so unique. I've worked in local government, I've worked in state governments, I've worked at nonprofits, and it's very authentic. So before we had the new department, these groups were working together, and so there was that sense of collaboration. But now with this new department, we're able to really, really drive it home. And people are watching us. I mean, we are being looked at the national level all the time. Sometimes we have to say, no, we cannot be at that thing. We can't go to that webinar or that place and talk about our story, but we try to as much as possible. And we're really working to document the story of what has happened here in New Mexico, because people are amazed at what we have been able to accomplish in a very short time in the midst of a global pandemic, and still we stay the course. And again, I do credit our governor heavily for that, and a legislature that is equally committed to early childhood.
And there's no question that this is, I mean, you mentioned the pandemic, this is a moment nationally that a lot of people are really looking at the early childhood system, particularly childcare. You have a lot of experience in this arena. Would you say this is truly a relevant moment? I mean, is this unprecedented in your lifetime in terms of how people are viewing early childhood, and conversely, what we can potentially do, maybe even because of the crisis?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, everybody is saying this is historic. We are at a historic moment for our field, for families and young children. This is the largest investment that's being made right now in early childhood since World War II. So we really feel that momentum of a time for us all to do our very best, to apply all the knowledge and the wisdom and the expertise that we have, but really leading with our heart and understanding what the needs of families and young children are, and building a system that meets those needs. We have the resources, we have them here locally, we have them now with the American Rescue Plan, but we're going to be tested. We have to see results. And so that's why it's exciting. The partnerships and the structure we have formed here in New Mexico, I think, situate us very nicely and better than many states to be able to seize this moment and make the difference that we all want for the entire country, but us in particular, for the New Mexicans.
You have a lot of talent. As you mentioned, you have system building experience. You have attracted a strong team. And again, we're happy to have you in early childhood in New Mexico. But why have you chosen to do this work? I mean, frankly, you might be able to, let's say, have more fame and fortune in another arena. Why is early childhood something you've done for more than 20 years?
Yeah. It's so interesting. I got started out of college. I studied women's studies and criminology, and I thought I would work in probation or prisons, and I started working in women's shelters for women who had been battered and abused, and then moved into child abuse prevention. And then slowly but surely I got into early childhood, and it really came clear to me that this is the work that can make the lasting difference for families and really break not just the intergenerational cycle of poverty, but of trauma and other things, and show people how they can be they're their child's first and most important teacher. And they know that at some level, but sometimes it takes a reinforcement, it takes a good home visiting program, a great early childhood teacher to just remind families and help them be their best selves. And so I see that this was my calling, because this gets upstream, and this gives us the opportunity to really start so early when a family is most hopeful, they're most excited, but they're also scared, and they have their least assets that there ever will in their life. And so we really have to come around them and provide them these supports in a thoughtful and intentional and aligned way. And that's what excites me about staying here, doing this work, and being part of an incredible movement.
That point about having the least assets is one of my favorites that you've made, and honestly, it's sort of reframed a lot for me. Finally, as we wrap up, what is your ask of everybody watching tonight, of the community that supports early childhood?
Thank you, Kate, for that question. And I think, first and foremost, as our first strategic priority, grow investments, invest. Invest in this very important period of life. Invest in good organizations like Growing Up New Mexico and so many others that are really focused on this important period of life. Hold us accountable. Make sure that you know what our goals are, what the trajectory that we've set for ourselves, and make time for us. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know when we're doing well. Let us know what your advice is to us, but first and foremost, make sure that we're thinking about the families and young children who can benefit most, and that you're making those strategic investments, that we are holding each other accountable for the good work that needs to happen, and that we're enjoying it along the way, we're having fun with it, and we're making sure that we're in community with each other, with the families, with the providers, and the community at large. That's what my ask is of everybody here tonight, and I know we can do it because that's what New Mexico does, and we've already proven it very well. So thank you for the opportunity to talk more about my experience and to be with you all here tonight.
Thank you, Secretary. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and thank you for all you do for New Mexico's kids and families.
Thank you, Kate.
Hello, I'm Abby Bordner, Vice President for Development at Growing Up New Mexico. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Our event is a hybrid event, which is a challenging task. We have guests from in-person parties as well as virtual, and we welcome all of you. It's so nice to have you here. I want to say a special shout out to our new friends that are attending. People have been invited that are potential partners in our work, and so enjoy yourself tonight, learn about our work, and ask questions. You're surrounded by other people who have a long-standing commitment to our work. So welcome to our new friends, and thank you to our board members who have identified and invited these people. We also want to say that this center of the circle is a reference to our special and important donors just like you. The center of our circle is where the biggest impact happens, and then the ripple effect comes out of there. So being at the center of our circle means that you are special, you are important, and you are a longtime ally for our work. And we are here to celebrate you and to deepen your commitment to the work we have ahead, as well as celebrate all the work that we've accomplished. So the center of the circle is really an important part of our work. And as Katherine said, you really help to create the freedom that we have to meet the needs of the families and the programs in a timely way and in a flexible way. So thank you for that. I want to also announce that our board members are doing a very important stewardship. They want to get to know you, our major donors and our special donors at the center of the circle. We have a board commitment to hear from you. How would you like to be involved in our work? How would you like to engage with us and learn about our progress? And so we want to hear from you tonight. Please use the time in your social circles after the program to talk about what your interests are and how you'd like to stay connected in this work. We want to engage with you. We want to ignite your passion for this work so that you will continue to be an advocate for children and families in New Mexico. I want to thank our sponsor, White & Left Financial, for also their unwavering commitment year after year to our work, as well as past board participation from Carl Leff. We appreciate their support and their sponsorship of tonight's event. And finally, I'd like us all to raise our glass with a toast. A toast to all of you donors and supporters of early childhood education and care in New Mexico, a toast to the department and Secretary Elizabeth Groginsky and the work they're doing, and a toast to Growing Up New Mexico to continue to be advocates and leaders for children and families in New Mexico and continue to do the great work we're doing. So cheers and thank you for being here.